All right, and then to go back to editing mode, what I could do is click this X, and then it takes me back to my editing mode. Now this page is done, okay? And so we have our Pages tab right here, and I'd like you to click on that, and then you can see that we have a page created already called our home page, which is this page that we made over here. What I want to do is I want to rename it. So if I mouse over it and I go down to the three dots and I say rename, I'm going to call it, instead of calling it home, I'm going to call it welcome. Okay? And then you can just hit enter or click outside. And now I need to add a page for our next thing, which is going to be our cover letter page. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to go down here and we're going to click the little plus button and we're going to call it cover letter. Okay, and then just say done. All right, so now it's created. Now, one of the other things that I do in or on my ePortfolios that I create is on my welcome page, I have this header. And so you can change the image on this by selecting an image or uploading an image. So it doesn't have to be just this black background. I could choose another image. I'll just grab this one just to show you. And then it's adjusting it automatically based on the background that you've chosen. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. The only thing maybe I will do differently is I'm going to make this text box a little bit smaller so that that line under the word welcome isn't so big. And then I can just drag it around. And then if you see the little blue marks kind of at the bottom, you'll see that that is perfectly centered. So I guess I'll leave it about like that. It's probably about the best I can get it. But one of the other things you'll notice now that we've made this cover letter page is it's showing up here in our navigation. So if I click back on that, what I was saying is that I only keep a background on my first one. You can have a background on every one if you want by just changing the image, either uploading a picture or selecting an image that Google gives you or that you can find using a Google search. But remember, keep all your images really professional. The thing that I changed though is header type. And so you have a large banner, which just makes this area bigger. You have the regular banner, or you have what I like to use, the title only. Okay? And the reason that I do that is that it gives me a little bit more room to try and put my stuff in here. And I just think it looks cleaner. But again, it is totally up to you. There is no bonus marks or marks taken away for anything either not being there or anything fancy that you've added. Because it is your ePortfolio, you can keep it any way you want. Again, I'm just going to click in here and try and make this box a little smaller and center it if I can. And I guess that's probably about as good as it's going to get. Now, what we're going to do is go back to the Insert button. And what we're going to do is, now I don't know if you all have cover letters, but if you don't, you're going to have to write one up. Okay? But what I'm going to do is I have many cover letters. So I am going to say that I'm going to add a cover letter from the drive. The one thing I don't want you doing is creating a text box and then typing in your resume. I don't want you to do that at all, okay? Because there's some big benefits of creating your cover letter in Google Drive and then adding it to your Google site through the Drive tool, okay? So if I click on From Drive, it's going to come up with a bunch of things here. Now, if I had it in my ePortfolio folder, it would be easy to find, but I'm just going to type in cover letter, and it will search my Google Drive for that cover letter, and I'm just going to use the first one that comes up because it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm just going to double click it, and then what happens is that it brings, I'm just going to close this up for a second. it brings up my Google Doc. Now this is a really old one back from 2004, but what it does is it brings up the Google Doc from the drive. And then what the benefit of that is that if in your Google Drive, if you make a change to your cover letter, so let's say your cover letter is right here, if you make a change to it in here, it will automatically update it on your website. And you don't have to retype it or try and keep track of which version is what and those kinds of things, okay? Now, the only thing that I would caution you to do, one is I would say that you don't need to include your phone number or your address, especially the ladies. Please don't do that. You could always put in there that your phone number and other contact information is available upon request. And remember also, back on our welcome page, I didn't show you how to do that, I apologize, is that we added our email address in here. So let me just show you how you do this. I'm just going to trash that. So all you got to do is type in whichever email address that you want, okay? And Google's actually smart enough that if I just hit either return or even to spacebar, it will automatically change it into a link. And so you'll know that it is a link and that it works properly two ways. One is if I click it, it'll bring up my Gmail. Or in the preview mode, if I mouse over it, so just watch down here in this corner here of my screen, kind of by this exclamation mark. If I mouse over my email address, you'll see that it comes up with mail to and then colon and then my email address. That's the HTML code for an email address. Okay, so then yeah, you know that it's going to work. And again, if you really want to test it, you can click it, and you'll see here somewhere in a second that it brings up it brought up two email programs actually, and here is my my mail program from my Mac. Okay, so I know it works. All right. And so that's good. So let's go back to the cover letter page for a second. And I'm just going to go back to editing mode. So one of the things that I like that you should try and make sure that you do in your on your cover letter page is if you click on it, you can drag this a little bit bigger. Okay. I like to usually drag it big enough so that whoever's going to look at it can immediately see what job I'm applying for, if there's a competition number, those kinds of things. So I like to have that available for them to see. And then again, when I go to the eyeball view, you know, it looks pretty good, right? And now, remember my scrolling rule for the first page, that there's no scrolling allowed. Obviously, on a page like this, they're going to have to scroll. There's no way that I can fit a two-page resume in a small window right here. So they can scroll inside this window if they want, but out here, you'll notice that there's really no scrolling, okay? And the other thing that a user can do if they want, they can use the little pop-out button here, and they can click it, and it will open it up in their browser as a Google document. Okay. Now, the thing that you absolutely have to make sure that you do is that on every single document that you're going to put into this portfolio, you need to share it, and you need to, I just always go to advanced, and you need to make sure that you change this part here to anyone with the link can view. Because if you don't do that, when I go to mark this, I will not be able to see your documents, and I will have to give you a 0 for them. Okay? So you have to make sure that you do that on every single document that you add in through Google Drive. Okay? Now you can always disable options for downloading, printing, all that kind of jazz if you want. And so I will do that. But it's just imperative that you change this to anyone with the link can view. Okay? So I'm going to say save changes and done. And I'm just going to close this and just go back here because you own this cover letter, and because you own it, you can see it all the time. But just a principal or a teacher or anybody who doesn't know you